Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Majority Show, coming at you live every Wednesday on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. I'm your host, Mark Devlin, and I'm here tonight on Scotland's #1 politics chat. Glad to have you with us. Tonight we have co-hosts Mary Devlin and Niall Fraser.
Hello there.
Good evening, everyone.
Mary, what have you got for us tonight?
Well, tonight I'm going to be talking about another bill that's typical of the SNP and Greens shoddy lawmaking.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. And Niall, what are you up to?
I'll be rounding up Humza's reign so far.
Right, and we'll also be talking about this week's news, including COVID. Maggie's running for election again. I'm not sure if she's running or not, but will we finally be able to give a by-election bye-bye to Maggie?
And of course, wait till the end for the Zoomer of the Week.
That's great. That's the highlight of the week. So we will see you again in just a moment. Right, well, welcome back to the show. Scotland's #1 politics chat, we like to say here again tonight with Mary Devlin and Niall Fraser.
And as usual, a huge thanks to UK Union Voice and United Against Separation Facebook pages, where I'm sure many of you are watching from tonight.
And of course, wherever you are, please like, share, comment, tell a friend. Extend our reach at the click of a button, guys.
And as usual, I'll be handling all your comments, so please keep them short and snappy, and I'll try to get as many up on screen as I can.
Okay, a quick reminder that we have some great merchandise for you in the Majority shop, such as these fantastic Majority t-shirts that just hot off the press, very nice, and a little bit of the sale from each one goes to support the show. Okay, we've got a lot to talk about on the show today, and we look forward to your comments. So we'll be back in just a second. Right, okay, so this week there's no one big story, so we'll kind of go around different stories. Starting with COVID, Maggie, Margaret Ferrier, who lost her appeal to against her what's it called? That thing, it was a committee suspension. That's the word I'm looking for. Suspension, mysteriously missing from my script here. And so let's have a recap. If you go back to the COVID days when Maggie was spreading her germs all around the country. Of course, there were a whole bunch of rules at that time, which she completely ignored. When was that, Mary? Do you think it was September 2020 or something like that?
I'm not sure exactly when it was, but I know that after she'd taken a test, she went to a bar, she went to the hairdressers, then she went down to London. So she got on the train from, and then she got on the train from London to Glasgow with 183 passengers.
Oh, very precise.
I know. Then she found out she had COVID. So what did she do? Well, she got the train back to Glasgow the following day to avoid having to self-isolate in a hotel room in London. So she infected people everywhere she went, especially, on the train, the whole length up and down the country. Basically exposing people to the risk of infection, illness, and death. Possible death as a result of her behaviour.
Did she spoke at the House of Commons as well, didn't she? So I think she
and the people in the House of Commons. Sorry,
I think that's why they're grumpy. I think more than anything else. They're like, okay, you can get the infected commoners as much as you like, but you're coming in here with all your nasty germs. That's really not very good, especially considering it was for affected older people, most of the people.
Well, I think the biggest thing at that time was that we didn't know how bad COVID was going to be.
Yes.
I think by that time maybe there were, sadly, thousands and thousands of people were dying, but we weren't sure, just how bad it was going to be in the general population, and that was the scary thing. But it obviously didn't scare her.
No. Okay. Well, anyway, she ended up getting censured by the House of Commons Standards Committee. It's on here, and she got a 30-day suspension. Not that anyone would notice if she was there or not. Have you actually ever heard of her doing anything in there?
Never at
Niall,
all. Never at all.
She's I mean, there's quite a bunch of them actually. There are many SNP MPs are there. There are 50, I think, or something like that. There's 57 possible in total. There's a lot of them there, and they don't seem to do very much except probably helping themselves to the buffet and so on, and getting all the benefits of expenses and so on. Anyway, they said that she had acted with blatant and deliberate dishonest intent. Wow. A high degree of recklessness to the public and to colleagues and staff at the House of Commons. Yeah, that's the bit they didn't like.
Reckless.
And this is not one momentary error of judgment. It's a sequence of events amounting to deliberate course of dishonest behaviour. We're laying it on here. She acted selfishly, putting her own interests above the public interest. There, therefore, could be no lesser sanction for this conduct. Right. So, anyway, she appealed that, and now it seems that the seat may be up for grabs because there is a thing called a recall petition that goes into effect. Now, if 10%, it says here, if 10%, more than 10% of registered voters in the constituency sign it within 6 weeks of the by-election then it will be held. Right, so it's the 10% in 6 weeks. I think they'll get that in 5 minutes. I don't think there'll be a problem. Basically, all the parties will be going against that. But I just wanted to say a little bit about this idea of the recall. I like this. I think we should be more of this type of recall thing. And Niall, have you any thoughts on that?
Well, actually, this recall thing, I think it's absolutely correct, Mark. I think there should be more of this to sort of carve our way through the MPs that aren't doing the job for the public. We just need to carve our way through all these useless individuals. I mean, this whole Margaret Ferrier thing has been rumbling on quite a long time, actually, and it has allowed Ferrier to soak up all the funds and expenses she possibly could before being ousted by her own constituents. It's typical SNP behaviour. Run out the clock and hope for a bigger scandal to come along tomorrow.
Oh, well, that's definitely true. Yeah, I think the idea that if we could get recalls on politicians we didn't like. Now, obviously, and this is a special case, getting 10%. Seems reasonable, perhaps, in this case. But if it was just in day-to-day business, if politicians knew, for example, that if, say, 30% or something like that, a good number, were able to go out and petition against them, and then it would kind of light a fire under their behinds, and maybe they would actually listen a bit more to what's going on in the local constituency, because people do complain so much that their MPs aren't, they go to Westminster and then they forget about them.
Yeah.
Problem, or they get involved in party politics instead of dealing with people in the local constituency and so on, and that would always be there as a thing. They have this recall thing in the States, and it seems to work quite well. I don't know if it works well. I've heard of it working past. Don't know if it actually works all that well. So
I think too many of them are too comfortable. They think that once they're voted in, they can just sit back and relax until it's nearly time for the next election.
Well, I think that's true. Wouldn't you do that? I mean, I would do that.
I would do that as well.
I would never do that.
You do as little work as you can get away with, right? And they seem to be able to get away with extremely little amounts of work. Yeah. So it's like any job. Until you're forced to do stuff, then you won't. Well, some people, of course, will be committed to things. But a lot of people are just like, okay, fine. Take the money and run, to speak.
Take the money and sit.
I'm not being cynical or anything. I mean, that's just the way life is. So anyway, everyone's against Maggie.
Yeah.
Anna Sauer, he says, every step of the way, this individual is trying to keep her job rather than actually standing up for the community that needs proper support. He said Ferrier had one final chance to do the right thing and resign, because she could resign and avoid this recall petition altogether. If she fails to do that, then I'm calling on both SNP and Tory MPs to vote for this sanction when it comes before them in the House of Commons. He's talking about the 30-day thing has to get approved, apparently, but they're all going to vote for it anyway. Yeah. And then allow the people of the constituency to participate in the recall election. So Labour want her out, the Tories no doubt want her out, but actually the SNP want her out because she's now
an independent, is she?
Yeah, she's running as an independent now, right? So they kind of want her out so they can get one of their people in, I would guess. Labour thinks they will win it. Michael Shanks is the candidate, a guy who actually left Labour Party due to its stance in Brexit, which isn't a particularly good sign, I have to say.
Yeah.
he was like, leaving Europe is going to make us all poorer. Well, think about the poor people in Europe. You're like, well, okay, whatever. What's that going to do? Think about the poor people here. Anyway, but he was anointed perhaps by the party higher ups to get the job.
Well, I heard a lot of people were very unhappy with that. They thought that perhaps Jackie Bailey had intervened and chosen the candidate that she wants. Or I'm not just putting it on her, but I think there was a few of them. But it's basically, I think the headline was that the three main candidates, or what people thought were the ones that were the most electable, were not chosen.
Well, the local ones, particularly. I don't know if he's particularly local, this guy, Michael. I've seen him on his Twitter, though. He seems all right. He seems to be having a good time there wandering around the streets of Rutherglen.
Well, I mean, I've seen the Labour guys out in force, canvassing Rutherglen already. I do agree with Anna Sarwar to a certain extent that, I mean, she should have done the proper thing and resign. And give our constituents a fresh start. But I would like to think that Labour would lose this by-election as well. I don't think Michael Shanks is the man for the job at all. I think, well, I'm anticipating myself to be running this by-election under the Scottish Family Party.
Are you the man for the job?
Yeah, well, too long as Scotland suffered under both the SNP and Labour. The difference between the SNP and the Labour is practically non-existent, guys. So why would you lend your vote to a pale imitation? Doesn't make any sense to me. I suggest you vote for the Scottish Family Party.
Right, and that was a party political broadcast on behalf of the Family Party by Niall Fraser, who candidate for Rutherglen and West Hamilton, is it?
It's Hamilton West and Rutherglen.
Hamilton West, that's right. Okay, and okay, Niall, best of luck to you. I think, however, that...
Is that a definite, Niall, or are you still thinking about it?
No, it's... if the suspension goes through, I'll go for it.
All right, okay. We'll give it a go. Why not? And see how well you go on. We'll be interested to see your progress, of course. But that aside, it is an extremely important by-election because it's not just bye-bye Ferrier. It could mean bye-bye SNP. They're going to put everything they can into it because they know that it's a high-profile loss if they don't. Yes. And it's going to be a high-profile loss anyway, because it will highlight SNP disregard for the law, voting for people who are incompetent and idiots, basically on party affiliation alone, and it will show the faithful if they don't win, it will show them that the party isn't going anywhere. What's the point in voting for the SNP if they can't win elections? And of course, on the other side, then there is the Labour, who are the favourites to win at the moment. All those things will accrue to them. Labour will appear like winners, turning the tide, and they will appear to have candidates who are voting on local issues rather than some kind of remote thing. And then, of course, with any luck, this guy, Shanks, won't be a lawbreaker. Anyway, she did actually get a criminal thing as well, didn't she? A criminal...
Yes.
It's not citation, I know what's the word for that.
A fine? Or?
Yeah, something like that. Community service. She was ordered to do community service.
Oh, that's what it was,
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, but the problem is if the SNP actually do win this, then they can wipe it all under the carpet. They can say she was an outlier. She's not one of us. She's a rogue agent and a virus, as it were, even. And now normal service has been resumed and we've got momentum, and now there's still a chance for us because we can win elections. No. That's what we're going to do. But
they would wish that to be true, Mark.
Yeah, well, I would think so. But I don't think there's any chance of them actually winning that or any other particular election. The polls, of course, aren't going very well for them at all. I don't know. We've seen this. Actually, I wanted to say this thing. When we put this up on YouTube, let's see, where is it? Here it is. Oh, no, why is it not showing? That's the wrong thing. That's strange. It's showing this. Oh, that's weird. Okay, hold on. I'll come back to it in a second. Well, anyway, when we put this up on YouTube, it came up with a COVID warning underneath it. It says if you get the latest information from the NHS about coronavirus, I was like, point one, don't go on a train when you're infected. That's anyway. Okay, so going on to the polls, I'm a bit confused about where my sheets are. So let me just a second. Okay,
Are
so
your sheets mixed up?
well, it's not that. It's not showing the right thing on here. So I'm going to stop the screen sharing and start again. All right. So polls are not really that great for the SNP at the moment. There were 2 polls came out this morning. And the first one was from YouGov, I think. YouGov.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, here we go. Here it is. Here, which said basically that the SNP going to lose 21 seats. Why does that not change? It's not changing here. It's changing in my thing.
I can see it there, the COVID-19 warning.
Yeah, that's the COVID one now, but they can't see the other one. Some kind of weird thing.
Maybe you've got a backup queue forming.
Oh, I'll share this tab instead. Let's try this. Oh, here we go. All right.
Right, what we got?
Oh, that's a different thing. I'll do
Here
that.
this is a
Right. Nope. Okay. There we go. So the SNP, it's not changing the things. That's very weird. Okay. Anyway, sorry about this technical issue. Anyway, the SNP going to lose 21 seats, and that is all over the press at the moment. 21 seats, quite a lot of seats there.
I thought it was more than that. I've seen headlines that have said 23 and 24.
Ah, well, I suppose that's different, isn't it?
They're not severe enough as well. I think it should be electoral oblivion across the board. But it's great to see that there's actually movement in the polls. And I mean, even losing 21 seats is gigantic, guys. Absolutely seismic.
Mm-hmm.
Right, yes. Here's the one here. I've got...
So how many do they have? Like 48 or something?
Yeah. That's what you want to see, isn't it? Yes, they have a bit more than that.
So it'd be down to nearly half. Is that about right?
Yes, and of course the issue in that poll was that Labour running up behind SNP 27 and Labour 24. Mm-hmm. So basically that's it. Now there's a tipping point, I think, when it gets to a certain point, because it's first past the post. In general election, that the winner takes all. So at a certain point, that's going to be what we may call this crossover day.
Well, momentum is very important. I think you mean momentum. So whatever party's got momentum are likely to continue gaining, and the party that's losing is going to continue to lose.
Yes.
So we'll probably see that crossover point that you're talking about.
Yeah, well, that's what we're looking for, crossover day, the day when the polls start to show that there'll be more of Labour than there are of the SNP, whether that's more in total vote share or whether it's more in actual seats lost. There's going to be numerous headlines about that turnover. So, yeah, I wanted to just talk a little bit about this IPSOS poll, which is the second poll that came out. And this bizarre IPSOS poll basically says that support for independence is at 51%. And it's just absolutely bizarre that I've got this here, and you can check this on Twitter as well. Basically, you can see roughly there that the green markers are ones that show yes positive, and all these other ones, about 20 of them or so, and it goes back a long way beyond that, are all negative. And the actual yes vote is between 45% and 37%. According to all of these other posters, yet IPSOS STV comes out with this thing that's saying it's 51% and it's more when they take out the undecideds and so on. So you have to wonder, it's like, who's pushing these polls a little bit? Why are they pushing them now? It seems very, very desperate. And we had some discussions before with IPSOS about their bias polling. They're always extreme outliers for yes vote, and their weighting is just way off, yet they won't change it. And it just gifts nationalists headlines and front page. You can absolutely expect that the national newspaper will have this as a front page, and it's just a world of delusion, because we can all look round with our eyes, right, and see this is not a movement that's going anywhere. So how could it possibly jump from the last poll, which was 44%, to 51% in a week, or whatever it is? Nonsense, utter nonsense. So that's it. So in other poll news, not poll news, there's also a council election going on. Mary, do you know anything about
that? Yeah, there's another by-election going on in North Lanarkshire because of sex pest Jordan Linden.
Oh, yes.
And because of that, all the well, Humza Yousaf was over there on the weekend, and he's supporting the new candidate, Joe Budd, who has stepped in, which is kind of surprising because, you know, Jordan Linden went for his sex pestery, and today we find out that all the 8 councillors who resigned or were fired or pushed out or whatever, they have all formed a new party. What's it called again? I think it's called Progressive.
The Desperate Party.
Yes, the extremely desperate Looney Party.
Well, they're called Progressive Change.
Well,
so those 8 ex-councillors are going to be standing against the SNP candidate.
I have to see if they have a policy that they're still for independence. I wonder, maybe they're just trying to get into Labour that way. I don't know. I don't know anything about it.
Well, I read some of their statements. They're talking about how they just want to work for the local people of North Lanarkshire, which makes you kind of wonder, what were they doing before?
Aye.
Yeah, it sounds like the equivalent of politically homeless a little bit at the moment. But you have to wonder about anyone joining the SNP, not joining or
at this
fighting
time,
for the SNP in an election right now. And it's just a wave of negativity going round at all. Really sounds like some kind of death wish.
I mean, interestingly, I was asked to run this local election as well, but it's just out with my boundary. But, you know, I didn't think I'd be able to put up with people who protect sex pests, guys. So I think I'd best avoid North Lanarkshire altogether.
Well, yes. I mean, not to say that the people of North Lanarkshire...
I feel sorry for the people of North Lanarkshire,
Bell's Hill deserve better.
Yes, yes. Well, it's just ridiculous. I mean, they basically... These people resigned in protest with sex pestery, right? And yet the SNP didn't change the thing, didn't do anything at all. Just like, off we go, here we go. Just next person in the queue, we'll put them in, we'll move along, get Humza out for a photo op. That's it. You know. So anyway,
wheel them out.
Yeah, it seems a bit desperate again, but though again, it's another one where Labour are likely to win. So I don't know why.
I mean, if I was this character, Joe Budd, I wouldn't want Humza campaigning alongside me. Oh my God, what a redneck!
Well,
right, disassociate yourself with this guy.
Yes, perhaps.
Okay,
anyway, right. Okay, so that's a wee roundup of some of the news of the week. There's going to be more coming up, of course, as we go forward. More than ever, we need your donations to keep the fight going. On days like today and every other day, we are working from morning to night to keep you informed, to amplify your voice, and just to know what's going on, and to hopefully give you some insight in a humorous, perhaps, fashion. I don't know. Some insights, some understanding of what's going on in Scottish politics, and also to see your comments as well. How are the comments going tonight, Mary?
We've had a lot of comments. I've been trying to put as many as I can. Some people are saying they'll vote for Niall, and some people are saying family party ? But so you've got a wee bit of work to do there, Niall. I would say.
Yes. I think we need to bring Scottish Family Party into the sort of new age. I think there's still a lot of people have views about the Scottish Family Party that are unfounded, and we just sort of need to quell these sort of feelings, I suppose.
Well, there's just one general comment that comes up that people are saying that if you know, having more parties will just split the vote. I don't know if they're talking about the Family Party or this progressive change.
Yeah.
So I guess progressive change might take away a lot of votes from the SNP. So
yes, perhaps.
It works on all sides.
That it seems unlikely that Family Party voters would vote Labour anyway.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
There's not as much crossover there, and I suppose there's room for
zero crossover at all. Zero there.
Okay, right. Okay, anyway, please.
On the Venn diagram, that's 2 separate circles.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, coming up, Niall's going to be talking about 8 weeks of Humza, and Mary is going to be talking about the shoddy laws they keep trying to make in Scotland.
Yeah.
So we will be back in just a few seconds.
Right. So it's Humza's 8-week reign. And if you want to scroll through some of these articles as I'm reading this, just to make it less...
Right. Well, yes. Okay.
More viewer-friendly, I suppose. Right. So effectively, today marks exactly 8 weeks since Humza was appointed First Minister on the 29th of March of this year. Talk about baptism of fire, guys. These 8 weeks have been jam-packed with scandals, resignations, police raids, active police investigations into SNP finances. So I suppose you can say it's business as usual for the SNP. The SNP are more fractured than ever. With Humza taking the helm as the self-styled continuity candidate. Music to the ears of Sturgeonites, but nails on a chalkboard for the rest of Scotland.
Very true.
Nobody, and I repeat, nobody wants a continuation of failure, except those politicians and spads clinging on to the SNP gravy bus for dear life. It's a shame that the famed gravy bus is now ditched, is on fire. A sort of scooter accident happened there. So what's happened in the last 8 weeks of his tenure? Well, SNP stocks are down massively since he took over. Latest polling has the SNP tanking desperately.
Yeah, except for IPSOS, that is.
I mean, they're being predicted to lose a whole raft of Westminster seats. So useless MPs like Annam, Quasar, Sex Pest Patrick Grady, Alison Fullis and Angus McNeil are all predicted to lose their seats, guys. And according to the Scottish Daily Express, only 5 are in peril of losing their seats. But I suspect we're about to see a complete rout of the SNP party. We've had Jordan Linden, we were just talking about him briefly there, ex-SNP council, was finally exposed and reported to the police. Why did it take so long? Why was the delay? Why was there a ring of protection around this Linden character? Likewise, why was a ring of protection thrown around Patrick Grady, another shamed sex pest? So for Humza, I suspect keeping a handle on the sheer number of sex pests his party has, or that his party creates, is his biggest job. So this is another big story that happened in Humza's tenure. Another so-called trans predator, Andrew Miller, dressed up as a woman to abduct a young girl in the borders and
that was scary.
To a
that one
series of sexual assaults. That's right out of what's the one with Buffalo Bill? Silence of the Lambs.
I was thinking Silence of the Lambs.
Silence of the Lambs, yes.
Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo Bill's the bad guy in it. And again, this will continue to happen time and time again, guys, under Humza's tenure, unless they totally scrap the gender bill, which they won't. And Humza, being a good little globalist, will continue his anti-reality gender bill and let these heinous crimes continue to be committed. We've had Humza and his wife show up to the grand coronation in basically funeral garb, completely dour faces the entire time, again making Scotland look horrendous on the international stage. So that's a roundup of Humza's 8 weeks, and it has been rapid.
He's been adding on to it this week, though, right? He's had this determined to keep going with this continuity idea, and he's got this amazing new idea, the Summer of Independence. Wasn't enough.
What does it mean?
Okay, hold on. Let's share this tab instead. All right. A new thing that makes me press a button, first of all. There it is there. We'll spend the summer campaigning for independence. Instead of the summer of love, it's the summer of hate, perhaps. Or grievance, anyway. That's more like it.
The summer of wasted time.
Yeah, a bit of a waste of time there. So anyway, he was on the telly and he was saying that apparently a wildcat referendum is out. Well, that's good to know. Not that it was illegal or anything. So a de facto referendum is in. So let's see what we've got here. Let's see.
It's not off the table. What we've said really clearly is that we will explore all options that are within a legal framework. I think that's what people would expect. So nobody's talking
about grinning. It's like Duper's Delight, that's called.
For example, that's just not an option that's going to be discussed. What we will discuss is various options that are very much within a legal framework and a de facto, using the general election as a de facto.
He'll laugh again, watch him.
Certainly one of those options I'm sure the membership will want to discuss. The big problem, of course, is that the UK government are denying democracy.
Oh, here we go. Denying democracy.
The SNP has won election after election on a mandate.
It's so tired, isn't it?
No, it looks like he's aging by the second.
Is the UK government will not respect democracy, so we now have to find...
Hugh that doesn't respect democracy, mate. You lost a referendum.
Many people in this country support.
He doesn't understand the 50% thing. It's like... You can't even claim to have a mandate if you don't have over 50%.
Well, it's not even that. I mean, that's not. You can't have a mandate for something that's out with your control. You can have a mandate to have, to ban Trident, for example. Well, what's the point? You can't do that because you have to be independent. You're not independent. It's a reserved matter, so you can't do it. Just talk about stuff that people actually are interested in talking about. Wait a minute, what is the Scottish Government for anyway? Is it actually any use to anyone? This is the big question. If you're not talking about these issues, we've already got a parliament to talk about the important stuff. What are you talking about? You're going to this, Mary. Just start talking about your bits. In your section, they have also suggested an independence convention, and
what's that again? Independence conventions. What's going on?
That's what it is. And so I have a suggestion for the agenda. Hour 1, read the Scotland Act. Hour 2, go home.
That basically sums it up, Mark. I mean, that's what it should be doing. I mean, just to sort of cap off the Humza's reign. I mean, Humza overall, ladies and gentlemen, Humza has been a disaster for both the SNP and for Scotland in the very, very brief time that he's been First Minister. He's like a golden goose to the Unionist parties because he is the herald of the SNP's demise. That much is clear. In summation, his 8 weeks in charge have been the worst of any First Minister in living memory. Even his rise to power is in question with the police investigation into the SNP being stalled or paused until after the leadership contest. I mean, how can this be allowed to happen? Public trust is irretrievably gone with the SNP. And with that, their votes will be gone as well. The SNP are the most untrustworthy party in UK political history.
Yes.
Yes.
As I say, they never respected democracy. We said no. That's the thing. And this whole idea that those are the bad people over there denying us. It's like that. It's just grievance mongering. It's nothing to do with let's accept what we've got and try and improve the lives of people around us. Nothing to do with that. Yeah. Those people over there are bad people. Support us. It's really what he's saying. And it's so, you think these people, they think they're so progressive and so on. You think they can't actually even see that. They can't see how they're doing that. It's really that. It's quite shocking. Anyway.
I loved Nicola. I put this up earlier, but Nicola Marshbank, she said, reign of disaster, absolute chaos. At least this will make an amazing West End musical or TV miniseries.
No, to be fair, it's like Succession, but like a really, really crap version of Succession.
Okay. I don't know. But not quite.
Yes, whatever. Anyway, in the meantime, Sturgeon's dropped out of view, except only to pop up with a posse of lesbians.
Interesting.
At an event in London where she got an award as a trans ally, if ally means putting genitally intact men into women's prisons.
I know. Let's sort of dispel this ally word and nonsense right now, shall we? An ally doesn't affirm someone's delusion. They just don't. So why? In fact, they would encourage a return to reality. So someone who indulges a person's delusion is not an ally of anyone, and we shouldn't be allowed them to take these words off us because they're, just corrupting the words as well.
Well, I think there's some truth to that. I think the idea is that if you're an ally for someone, you actually want to help them.
Yes.
And is this helping the trans people? I don't know. This is a bigger question we can't get into here, but is basically putting trans people in the centre of a political firestorm, helping people, most of them who just want to be left alone and live their own lives and not to be bothered by, people on the other side being a political football. So I don't know about that. I think it's a bit much. So
the SNP have just been using trans people for their own
it's actually
their own benefit. It's a shame, and they've actually done nothing for them. How are trans people any better off now than they were before? They're not.
No, they're not. And it still takes 3 or 4 years or whatever it is to get an appointment.
It's 5 years to get appointments now.
Yes.
Some great comments for Alexander McGee. I would not trust him with my cat.
And that was the first one.
Similar to you, Alexander McGee. Shut down Holyrood now. That's right up your street, Mark.
Yeah, it's a question that needs to be asked. I mean, what is the point of these people talking about this nonsense anyway? I mean, it's just Mary's going to it more. It's just bad laws. If you're just having people here to put bad laws in place, then what's the point? What is the point? We'd rather be left alone than have bad laws. Yes. Well, I say this again at the end of Mary's section, right? Anyway, so where are we at? So Sturgeon's still doing the rounds. She's going to appear with the racist Janie Godley having a conversation. That will talk about that using talking about Asians in derogatory fashion, or talking about black people in derogatory fashion, or people with disabilities in a derogatory fashion, that is something that most decent people shouldn't actually really look forward to.
Talking about Down syndrome people.
Yeah. Oh, God.
And she's also, apparently, Sturgeon's also, she's out there saying that she is got a new love.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh.
Well, yes.
Chocolate?
What happened? No, this keeps disappearing. She'll share the screen again. All right, she says got a new love of hill walking. And I say, well, she's got plenty of experience of that because she's walking her supporters up the hill to Independence and back down again for years.
Oh, well done, Mark. I like that one. I think it's because there's no signal up there. She can avoid the phone calls.
Oh, yes,
she wants to go to the sort of Bermuda Triangles in Scotland where there's no signal at all.
Yes. She says in that article she wants I'm ready to champion Glasgow's Southside community. Wasn't she doing that before?
If that was her job.
It was.
It's been her job for many years. Maybe she's just realised.
Making good time here. All right, Mary, you are going to be up next. But first, a little message from our sponsors. That's you out there watching. So if you would like to donate to the show, please do so. We have, just go to our website. There's a donate button there. Anything monthly, one time. It's great. Last week, someone watching the show donated a significant amount, and we'd like to thank you specifically. But even if it's a small amount, it doesn't matter. Everything helps.
Everything is put to good use.
Everything is put to good use, including making this amazing show, which is Scotland's #1 political chat. We'll be back in a few seconds with Mary on shoddy lawmaking.
Okay, so the Scottish Government is again being accused of more shoddy lawmaking after ministers were blasted by a committee for not providing enough financial information for legislation to change the children's justice system in Scotland. So what we're talking about is the Children Care and Justice Scotland Bill. So this is another bill that I think it's at the committee stage. And the committee, of course, they have to, look through all the financials and everything, but they're saying that basically they're not being given good information and that this is just par for the course. So this bill in particular proposes to change the children's hearings system and several parts of the criminal justice system related to young people. What in particular it's trying to do is to set out a change to the definition of child in the children's hearing system from someone under 16 to someone under 18. So what they're basically saying is that a child isn't, you don't stop being a child at 16, that you actually stop being a child at 18. So the reason that this would be good is because if the bill was passed, then it would stop the people under the age of 18 being sent to, well, they say this is good, being sent to young offenders institutions or prisons, as well as it would have changes to the way young people can get accommodation, securing accommodation. But the SNP in the Greens administration, I mean, they're already presiding over a number of failed policies or policies that are, really under pressure. Everything they're trying to do basically isn't working. But this one involves children, so the stakes are even higher here. The thing that I'm really surprised about with this is that the Scottish Government, as we know, they let what they are now calling children vote at the age of 16. They lowered the age from 18, but then they're saying, they're still a child until they're 18.
Yeah, it's another classic, isn't it? I mean, it's the SNP and the Greens, their obsession with children just knows no bounds. I mean, this another ploy to involve kids in the election as responsible members of society, but then totally disregard that responsibility when it comes to the criminal justice system. It's bonkers and it's not coherent at all.
Well, they're always contradicting themselves, aren't they?
Of course they are.
And this is just another instance of it. So now we don't know whether, young people in Scotland, are they children at 16 or 18, or we don't know. Everything's kind of up in the air. Yeah. But this is just really very typical. And I think it was Michael Mara, the Labour MSP, who who was quoted earlier in this week, and he was saying that he's the one that was calling this just another example of, shoddy lawmaking, of which, we've got many examples at the moment. We've got of course, we've been talking tonight about the disastrous GRR bill, which the UK government had to block, and basically it became the final straw that broke the back of Sturgeon's reign. Then there was the deposit return scheme, which is still, that whole saga is still going on. I mean, there's a lot of things that we report on I report on every week, and we're always talking about, and these things are just going on and on. But this week, Lorna Slater was blaming Westminster for not approving an exemption for which she still hasn't submitted the paperwork.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw Alistair Jack on a video the other day, and he was talking about how there are certain parts of the paperwork that need to be submitted, and he hasn't even received them yet. So he's not even at the stage where he can really assess the application.
Everyone's against this plan now. I mean, basically by letting it go on for so long, they've managed to build up a good head of steam of people who are against it. There's certainly a lot of stuff on Twitter against it. Now they're doing them desperate kind of astroturfing, basically paying people to put up positive posts about this DRS and showing showing rubbish on the ground around in different places. And you're like,
so they're spending money on this?
Yeah, well, I think so. Yeah, it looks like it. So are they? But our point is simple. It's like target the people who put the litter on the ground. Don't target the rest of us. We don't. We put our litter in the bin. We put it in the if we go to somewhere, we put it in a bag and take it home with us. That's what we do, and that's what we should educate people to do that, and fine people perhaps if they don't do that. And actually, we saw that thing. It was in Australia, wasn't it? Where they've got the litter cameras as well. I mean, put something in that actually might work. Not this ridiculous system that has to involve the whole of society. Everyone changing
what we're doing.
Changes the natural way they've been doing things for years, imposes huge amount of costs on businesses, and just as a real pain in the arse for everybody. It's like,
well, I mean, Later basically said this week that it's basically over because they're not going to be able to get the exemption in time to keep going on about. And the big story this week is that all the businesses now are going to ask for compensation because they have spent millions and millions on trying to implement this scheme, and now that it's basically going to be trashed.
Yeah. Well, can we recoup the money that they've spent?
As long as it's not in the
first place.
They're going to try and claim compensation from the Scottish government, to which Humza Yousaf was trying to blame the UK government. He's saying no, it's the UK government's fault because they won't give this exemption. But they applied really, really late, and they haven't even completed the application yet. So I mean, that's a disaster. That whole bill is a complete disaster. As well as that, we've also got another bill is the HPMAs, the highly protected marine areas.
Yes.
This week, on the ongoing saga of that, we're being told that the Scotland's soaring salmon exports to Asia would be put at risk. I think that's what the main market for salmon exports. And implementing this is just one of the things with this HPMA. There's hundreds of reasons why it shouldn't
because these
be
people have
implemented.
never lived in the real world. That's what it comes down to. They go to college and they might come out of college and they get to some they might be lawyers or something like that even. I mean, but it's not doing the actual work, right? Like running a business or being an employee in a business, these type of things, they just not do that. Humza Yousaf, he's never had like what we might call a real job. He just went straight into politics and he's been going on from there. And the thing is that you need to go out and have some real life experience. It's not enough to go and visit some like Lorna Slater, get on our private yacht and a ferry and get across to Mull once, in a blue moon.
Well, this week, Mark, on the ferries, because we haven't said anything about the ferries this week, but this week people are now being advised not to travel to Mull on the ferry.
Oh my God.
So I mean, but they have no idea what's going on. But the thing is, as well, I think that translates into they've also got a love of big government. as well. So what they think the government can solve all their problems instead of working with people and they want to impose control all the time. It's like just leave us alone and find the people who are causing
Actually
the trouble. I mean,
So,
really, that's the thing about it.
Why was there no any consultations with the HPMAs and the DRS scheme? I mean, if Mary's what they're saying, that these companies are going to try to collect compensation off the Scottish government, off us. That, so I mean,
they've got real costs.
These policies out straight away.
I don't know the details of it. I imagine there were some kind of consultations, kind of a little bit. Yeah, but what they do is just ignore what they're being told.
No, they don't. It's not. It's more nefarious than that. What they do is they fund organisations that then tell them what they want to hear. So they fund places like, if it's the GRR, they fund the Rape Crisis Centre.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and then the Rape Crisis Centre says, well, you should do this stuff, be all transgender inclusive. Right, and then because it's got the imprimatur of the Rape Crisis Centre, people think, oh, that's legit. And it's the same thing that happens with these green groups and other community groups. They've given them money so that then they'll either say yes when they're asked, or they'll propose stuff that they want anyway. That's the way it works.
Parliament and the Scottish Children's Parliament.
Okay, so it's a complete corruption of civil society, because basically the government is bribing people, civil organisations, to give them the thing. So they're always working with them. That's not like it's not this is a thing that goes even a bit deeper than this idea that these people are protesting against the government. Even they're not. It's like you see these eco people in the street, they're working with the government basically. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but the point is that it's the same agenda, right? It's not a different agenda at all. The different agenda would be leave us the hell alone, right? That's the different agenda. So they're working with it, and that's why you get that lax policing and all that kind of stuff. I digress.
Okay, so just to kind of round up, there's another bill that we're following, and it's another disastrous bill, and that is the National Care Service Bill. If you remember last week, Mary Todd, basically she couldn't get her head around the numbers. So this is what these committees that are trying to sit and to evaluate these different bills, they're just not getting the financial information that they need. And what they do get, I mean, I'm being told this week that like in this bill with the children's bill, which is very, very important, that they're not taking into account inflation. They're not even looking at, basic costs. That they've got no idea of how costs are going to go up or anything like that. But another bill, or another thing that's happening, of course, in Glasgow is the Glasgow ULEZ.
Don't get started.
I know, I'm not going to get started. I'm just going to say that there is going to be a march. If anyone wants to protest against that.
Yes, I'll be on there.
I wish there had been a lot more protests going on. Mark will be at the front of the march if you'd like to see Mark.
I'll be. Yes, I'm definitely going to go for this one. Really, right. I think
you should. So if you would like to protest, there is a march. I saw it on a tweet from Glasgow Needs You on Twitter. And this Saturday, I think everyone's meeting at the Botanic Gardens at 1:30 p.m. or 1 p.m. So please check the tweet for the exact details. And they're going to be marching to the Buchanan Street, the steps at the Buchanan Street galleries.
Right.
Okay, so please join that one if you can.
Even if it's not big or whatever it is, it still shows that maybe there's some people there. We talked a little bit about this, and we have a weekly meeting. We talk about it, and one of the things we're looking at is there a civil society in Glasgow or in many other cities that can stand up against this and say, look, we are the residents of this city. And this council is taking actions that we don't really agree with at all, and at least put a break on some of these things. They're just very frustrating. When is that coming in? 6 days or something like that from now. We won't be able to drive our car into the centre of Glasgow if we do, to pick up our kids from time to time. So instead of a 10-minute journey into the town, then it's almost an hour.
You could be fined 60 quid. I've seen in a paper.
Well, that's the first time. After that, it doubles. It just goes up and up.
Okay, Mary's told me it's time to move on using our secret message channel. Thank you for that, Mary. I think, just as you said earlier on, it's just people have no idea. If they're making so bad laws, what's the point? Yeah. That's the thing.
Well, I mean, a whole discussion for a whole other time is, should the legislative powers be taken away from?
that's definitely,
because they're so bad at it anyway.
Yeah.
that we should take those powers away until they learn how to do better.
Yes. Well, indeed. Okay, you can do lots of things to support the show. We talked about them before. Please put a donation in if you can. Buy a nice T-shirt. These are brand new ones out, the majority. And tell your friends about us, because that's the best way for us to grow. Subscribe and like this channel if you can as well. That helps a lot. So coming up, it's the moment you've all been waiting for. It is a highlight of the week. It is Zoomer of the Week.
Yay.
Right. Okay. So my nomination for Zoomer of the Week is Eddi Reader. Some of you may remember Miss Reader from the hit song "Perfect" in the 80s. One-hit wonder, I believe. Since then, she's built a career on touring and apparently Anglophobia. In fact, she was one of the first person I tangled with when we first started this up. And actually, I come to mention that it is pretty much our 3rd anniversary. I think next show will be the 3rd anniversary.
Congratulations.
Of the majority.
Wow.
In fact, I'd like to thank
done, all of us.
Yeah, all of us and everyone out there as well. So
and
maybe do a little bit more about that next week.
Maybe next week.
At that time, 3 years ago or so, she was praising Hugh McDermott, who is a hero of the nationalist community and who also wrote a book praising fascism. In fact, the title is In Praise of Fascism. I think.
Is that what led you to think that it was in praise?
Yes. Anyway, it's like, this early history of the SNP is full of fascists and full of people who would quite happily have let Hitler beat the English because it suited them and stuff like that. We all know this is thing. They don't like to be brought up on this type of stuff. Anyway, the other day we had that video with Alistair Jack. I don't have the video right now, but it's Alistair Jack was talking about the here he is here, but no sound on it. Talking to the committee, giving reasoned, firm responses to nationalists on the committee. He said that the SNP only existed to break up the UK, prompting Pete Wishart to come to say that was excessive language. You're like, okay, you don't like being called a nationalist then? I mean, this was things nationalists don't seem to like to accept their own reality. Anyway, so Eddi tweeted on this. Eddi tweeted on this. Where did she say there? Okay, get Brits and their colonial tridents out of my glamorous spellbinding country. This man is unelected by the Scottish people. Feck him. A tweet that manages to include Scottish supremacy, misinformation, and a hint of Irish republicanism all in one. And a reminder that Alistair Jack is actually an elected MP for Dumfries and Galloway.
What's the colonial tridents about?
That's what trident. Trident. It's not even got capital
Trident.
T. It's somehow colonial.
I thought it was like Neptune. Neptune's trident.
They're being imposed upon these poor Scots by the nasty English people who just want to protect us in case we get invaded by Russia.
Actually, she calls them Brits.
Well, Brits, yes.
Yeah,
Brits. Get Brits out of the country. Well, we're British.
She's not even. She doesn't include herself as being British. Then.
Yeah, well, that's the point, isn't it? And that's why she uses the Irish spelling feck as well, because she considers herself maybe more Irish, perhaps, or Irish ancestry than that's important to her. There was the other day someone was on, and they were saying on Twitter, they were saying that I support Scottish independence because one of my ancestors was fought in Culloden or something. And I'm like, wait a minute, you go back 200 years, you probably have,
4 million ancestors.
Huge big scroll.
10,000 ancestors. And I said this to the person. The person says, yeah, one of my other ancestors was like Jane Austen or something. Yeah, Jane Austen. I'm like, well, why don't you take the Jane Austen bit? Right, and fight for better
writing
literature
skills,
or something like that. It's like the person just chose that to amplify their own grievance. Anyway, that's kind of what happens with these people. Then these people from background who want to break up the UK at any cost. Anyway, but nonetheless, Eddi is not averse to taking English gold. She's touring there in October. Mm-hmm. And she's also quite happy to take the Empire's honours as an MBE to her name as well. So, for being a Scottish suprematist hypocrite with nary a brain cell between her grievance-ridden ears,
well done.
Support. My nomination is the Not So Perfect. ED reader.
I see what you did there. Yeah.
Yes, thank you for that. I had to get that in there somewhere. Right. Okay, but there are more Zoomers to come. Do you know much about this lady? Actually, no much about this lady, Niall. No.
Yes. Well, actually, she came after me. I can remember I made a video to promote a protest, and she came after me. Even when the gist of it was sound and noise and frequencies and music, and I thought that I would have connected to her being a musician, but of course, just right over her head, and then just started attacking me. Classic Eddi, isn't it?
Right. Okay. Next up is going to be you, actually. So we'll keep you there, and we'll put the screen on.
All right, so I've got a great one this week, guys. Absolute stellar entry into the Zoomer of the Week category. And we need to add it to the wee frame that you've got up there, Mark. I'm sorry to put extra work on you, but we'll need to add it in.
Yes.
So if you want to bring the video up first, you don't need to listen to it.
Rights overshadowing women's rights and that kind of thing. Interestingly, when you say, well, as a woman, I don't feel my rights being infringed. Oh, well, I've just been captured by the trans brigade. I mean, how insulting can you get?
She's been captured by the trans brigade.
It's all about the way she looks. She looks unhinged here.
That we say,
well, she is unhinged. That's
think about what's been happening for the last 14 years. Women's refuges, women's rape crisis centres have been trans-inclusive for 14 years. Nobody Nobody was talking about
I've met people like this in the past, and they're just real busybodies. Always getting themselves bothered in other people's business.
I don't see why, but refuges, rape crisis centres, and others. Others
Is that the one where she? This is the one where she complains about the bigot. Everyone against her is a bigot.
Oh, I mean, if anybody in conversation with her that's in opposition to what she's saying is a bigot and a racist, of course. But I mean, this is my nomination of the week, guys. The legally insane Maggie Chapman.
Okay.
I mean, see, you could watch that video on mute. And it is actually
prefer to watch it.
You would prefer to watch it on mute, but it's just as alarming on mute than it is with the actual audio. And I thought it was actually sped up, the clip, because they are super animated hand motions.
She's like Spud and Train Spotting.
She was on drugs. I mean, there's no way to say it. I mean, she looks like she was on
nutter.
A high amount of drugs. So she's preaching here to the choir, the LGBTQ plus XYZ 123 activists are all clapping along like seals when they hear her say the buzz phrases. But Maggie has been the conduit, guys, for a lot of the totally, frankly, insane rhetoric coming from Hollywood. And she seems to be living up to that expectation, I suppose. And she's purposely blurring the lines between reality and fiction here. This is what she does. And this is why she's so dangerous. So, of course, she says it's all about protecting the so-called trans community that's just spawned in the last few years. But in actuality, it's about collecting votes. This is what it's about. And it's collecting votes for the radical left. Because, like I said earlier, this ally stuff, it just doesn't wash in the mirror. And Maggie is abusing the delusions of this trans community and trying to convert that into votes in the most despicable fashion ever seen in British political history. We're seeing it across the West, but this is truly, truly terrible.
She shouldn't have been allowed to get it
in such a way. It's just absolutely horrible. And she's my Zoomer of the Week for just the mannerisms alone. Gets her on the list.
Maggie Mad Eyes.
And he says she's just a complete nutter, and the system is another reason to get rid of the thing if it allows people like her to get any kind of power. Certainly. Okay, time's running on. So, Mary, it's up. You're going to be. Oh yes, what's the
someone saying Pick Bardell in the Golden Carriage?
Oh, that's a good one. That was a good one.
I didn't. I've got a better one.
Right. Okay. Here it comes.
Okay, my Zoomer of the Week this week is MSP Emma Harper. God love her. Emma stood up in Holyrood to tell us in pretendy Scots that our great Scottish baby box has been touring the USA to strengthen our Muckle cultural ties, and it's worth shouting about.
Right, here we go.
Even our baby box presiding officer has been on tour in the USA, featured as part of the Designing Motherhood exhibition. The Muckle cultural ties between our countries are absolutely worth shouting about. And as a
So someone online, I thought this was
Oh, God.
Someone online said, I'm sure the Americans will be bedazzled by our cardboard box full of diapers and baby tat.
Yes.
Just like, what?
I don't think any other MSP could stand up in Holyrood and say any of that with a straight
But
face.
it's really like she's been held hostage or something forced. You must say some Scottish words inside a normal sentence. Oh yes, yeah, okay. I'm going to go out to the shops and buy a Muckle.
A Muggle bag of cookies. Well, it's the random use of what she thinks are Scots words and Scots pronunciations that make it, and basically the message is just hilarious. The word muckle, I believe, probably hasn't been used in Scotland since 19 canteen.
Oh, everyone says in that thing, right? In the phrase, many a Muckle, many
No,
a Muckle
that's
makes a Muckle, but not in normal speech. You don't use
Many
it.
a mickle max a muckle.
Yes. Yes, but you don't.
And most people probably don't even know what that means.
Yes, but you don't use it in normal speech. You know, it's a muckle. It's actually quite challenging to use, I suppose. Anyway,
Well, it's when you're saying a normal sentence and then you try and put muckle in it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it's so obviously fake. It's ridiculous.
And the about at the end, not worth shouting. About.
I mean, some people talk like that. Some people could actually talk like that and say it, and it would sound fine. You know, there's nothing wrong with Scottish accents. You know, you go to some parts of the countryside, and people are, you know, even for Scots, it's hard going. But but you know, this is just made up. Pish, to use a Scottish word.
Everyone's got their own accent, and for her to like put on the, it's not even an accent she's putting on. It's like she's just adding in, crowbar in words that are Scottishy. You know, a muckle. A boot, you know, what's going on? Is she being coached in this by some sort of Scots?
Obviously not. She's rubbish at it.
Oh God!
Basically, she speaks genuine Scots as well as Borat speaks Kazakh. She could be his wee Scottish Scottish sidekick.
Yes.
She could be wee Emma.
There's definitely a comedy series in there. I think. With anyway, all right, okay. Apparently, it's me to decide, and I'm going to have to go with Emma. She's just so good. She's just the gift it keeps on giving. She's just the whole thing before with the currency and the plastic and propensity to use plastic and all this nonsense. She's just crazy nonsense. So, Mary, you are the winner with that one.
Deserved winner.
Very difficult.
I knew I was going to win with that. You always win with Emma, I have to say.
Right. Okay. Well, okay. We're drawing the show to a close. We're running a wee bit late, but thank you for being with us all this time. Mary?
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your comments tonight.
Okay. Yes, been great comments tonight. I've been reading them all quite diligently.
That's great. Oh, in fact, just leave you with the thought of the week. As the old joke goes, what do you call the loss of 21 SNP seats? A start.
A start, yeah.
So let's consign them to the dustbin of history and not the recycling one, the one that goes in the big fire.
We'll all get behind that.
We are so happy to have you with us on the show every week. Please tune in next Wednesday, 7 p.m. For more chat, discussion, fun, and a bit of a laugh, and more Zoomers and disasters. Anyway, so good night from me.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everyone.
All right, so we'll see you soon.